Good evening, everybody. This is Danny Thompson with the BuzzCity post-game show live here on Haps TV, YouTube, as well as Facebook, and everywhere you can hear the sound of my voice. I am your host, Danny Thompson. Check with you live tonight. Like I said, my credentials, I am with the three-point conversion senior NBA writer covering the Charlotte Hornets, and this is the premier post-game show involving your, guess what, your Charlotte Hornets. So the show is brought to you by Haps TV. Also, at the same time, for those who never know what Haps is, Haps offers a world-class broadcasting tools to a community eager to collaborate and simply find ways to be able to support your favorite viewers financially, creatively, as well as, just be able to talk to them on a nightly basis. So for those who've never tuned into the show, shame on you. For the ones who have, I appreciate you. Welcome back. So at the same time, like, share, tag the show everywhere you go, especially for your friends and family that are Charlotte Hornets fans, because after tonight, there might be more Hornets fans than we have seen in a long time. For those who missed the game tonight, listen, it was brother versus brother. All right. It's the first time in NBA history where two brothers who are top 5 picks in the NBA draft went against each other, and they did it on national television. The New Orleans Pelicans take on the Charlotte Hornets, and guess what? The Hornets trailed for 43 minutes tonight, but they held on, took the lead late in the game, and finished off the Pelicans by the score of 118-110. The Hornets got their 4th win of the season. They end their road trip with a nice little 2-2 record after struggling against Philadelphia the first 2 nights, but winning their final 2 games of the road trip. So if you're also in the chat, if you're on Facebook, you're in the chats and other places, please, by all means, go ahead and like, share, and also comment as well, too, as you see my man Mike Patton did in the corner over here about LaMelo Ball and Gordon Hayward getting in the game together and making magic, and they did. And we're going to talk all about it. Also, at the same time, as you see in the left-hand corner, as you see all the Haps TV logo and everything else in that side, you also can subscribe to me on Haps as well, too. You'll see the little link in the corner as well, too. All right, let's go. Let's talk about the game tonight. Listen, another night in the first quarter where the Charlotte Hornets couldn't do anything defensively in the first quarter. New Orleans came out firing from the very beginning. They had 7 of the 10 shots from deep downtown, and it couldn't do much. Charlotte struggled. Once again, Charlotte is one of arguably the worst scoring team in the first quarter. And to Hornets fans, it's all about now, what do you do with LaMelo Ball? What do you do with LaMelo Ball? Put him in the starting lineup. But what Charlotte did different tonight was, instead, if you look at the first 9 games of the season, Charlotte, when they get down by about maybe 10, 12, 13, 14 points in the game, they struggle to ironically get the lead back under 10 points. As we saw in the first half, Charlotte couldn't hit water from the 3-point line. Zion Williamson was a bully down low, and really the only thing that was keeping the Hornets in the game, between Miles Bridges putting the dunks back in, was the fact of LaMelo Ball had 7.7 rebounds and 4 assists. Charlotte was down at halftime. It wasn't pretty, and it looked at sometimes tonight that Charlotte was going to get blown out. They were down as many as 18 in the first half, and the Hornets somehow looked lifeless in the very beginning. They didn't have any energy. They didn't see, you just felt it was a national TV audience. And really, this is the first time the Hornets have been on national television since the Kemba Walker game last season when Kemba Walker returned to Charlotte. Now, what we got in the second half was something different. Charlotte came out in the third quarter. In the first 4 minutes of the quarter, hit more threes in that part of the game than they had hit in the entire game. Charlotte in the second half hit 13 3-pointers out of their 17 in the second half, 9 of them in the third quarter. Listen, what Charlotte did better was they started running up and down the court. And when you look at the New Orleans Pelicans and the way their roster is shaped, you look at guys like Zion Williamson, you look at guys like Brandon Ingram, you look at guys like Lonzo, like even LaMelo Ball's brother, Lonzo Ball, Eric Bledsoe, Drew, JJ Redick. You would see guys that should be able to start an up and down, up-tempo game. You should be able to see that. But the Pelicans coming into the game tonight was one of the worst paced teams in the NBA. Ironically, and it's really funny because of the fact of you would think that a team with all that talent should be able to do more. And it's not. Charlotte's actually have a better pace than New Orleans is, even though New Orleans is considered a top 5 offense statistically. But what the Hornets did in the third quarter was they penetrated the ball. You saw LaMelo Ball doing different things, getting guys open, and it wasn't just LaMelo Ball. The guy that's been catching the most flack in Charlotte all year has been Devontae Graham, and Graham actually had an all-around game that was phenomenal tonight. 17 points. He had the 6 rebounds. I think he had 8 assists tonight. But what Charlotte did was they opened the floor up. As you listen to the announcers, you listen to Jeff Van Gundy calling the game tonight, you saw how their tone changed when Charlotte started knocking down 3-pointers. We got a question for one of the Facebook questions. Do you see Melo better as a starter or as a six-man? At this point in the year, it's better that he's a six-man. Because of the poor start Charlotte's had all season, when LaMelo Ball comes to the game, he changes everything. He changes the dynamic of the team, him and Miles Bridges, because they bring a sort of athleticism that even the Pelicans with Zion Williamson down there couldn't figure it out. The crazy part into this game was tonight when you looked at the rosters, you looked at Steven Adams, you looked at Jackson Hayes, you looked at Zion Williamson, you felt that Charlotte was going to get killed on the boards tonight. And ironically, they out-rebounded the Pelicans by 9 and also had 16 offensive rebounds. To Facebook users' question, LaMelo had 4 of them by himself. Devontae even got in the action by grabbing 2 of them. So, to me, LaMelo brings an energy off the bench that is infectious, okay? We saw it tonight, 12 points, 10 rebounds. He fell 1 assist away from the triple-double, and I'll bring up the triple-double situation at the end. All right, before Hornets fans start destroying James Borrego for that call late in the game about him not playing him at the end of the game. So I think, to the Facebook users' question, I really honestly think that when you look at what LaMelo Ball brings to the table, coming off that bench, I think for him, at this point is eventually going to be the right thing to do. I think it's good for now. I think later on LaMelo should be a starter. Mike Patton in the chat saying Miles is hooping this year, and his 3-point shot has improved. He mentioned this, mentioned to us in pressers, even through the camp they had during the summer. Well, you want to say the fall, where he discussed that his shot, he worked on the shot all the time. He worked on it, and it's gotten better. It's to the point where you actually have to respect him behind the 3-point line. I'm not saying you have to send a man out there, but you're just not going to leave him wide open like you used to. But back to the game. When you look at the first half, and Charlotte, the slow start, and New Orleans was out there running and gunning down the floor. At one point, the Pelicans had more transition points in that first stretch, I want to say the first 6 minutes of the game, than they had in any game at all of the season. You felt as a Hornets fan that this game was going to be a blowout. It had every potential to be a blowout from the start. Okay? I mean, you're watching at home, they're down 16, the guy's down as 18, and Charlotte just pretty much trailed the entire game. But what Coach Borrego said, it was basically just getting this team back together and playing for one another. You know, when we had a chance to talk to LaMelo Ball and yesterday, we talked to Coach JB at the press conference tonight, and he said he got on the team. And even Devontae said the same thing at halftime. Coach got on them about effort. And it wasn't the fact that they stopped playing with effort, it's the fact that the shots weren't going down, and you can see that the heads were going down. But let's go to the third quarter. Charlotte came in the third quarter, knocked down 9 threes. When you knew something was going to happen when the first couple possessions Charlotte had in the third quarter, it was 3-pointer, 3-pointer, 3-pointer. You saw Gordon Hayward start warming up. Like the last game against Atlanta, Hayward had a phenomenal second half. All right, he finished the game at 26 points. You didn't really thought he was there in the first half, but he did everything in the second half that looked like the first half performance he had against the Atlanta Hawks on Wednesday, and Hayward hit shots in the fourth quarter as well too. But the turning point of the game was the fact that every time Charlotte would knock down a 3, the defensive intensity got better for Charlotte. They caused 19 total turnovers in the game, but you saw the defensive pressure they put on. It wasn't just the fact that you saw what Bismack Biyombo was doing and PJ Washington getting blocks early in the game. When Cody Martin came in the game, he was playing some good defense. LaMelo Ball was picking up more defensive concepts in the game. We saw Terry Rozier getting in passing lanes. He had the team high 3 steals tonight. Charlotte was doing all the little things that you would do to beat a team like New Orleans. Now, New Orleans coming into this game tonight have had issues closing out games. New Orleans for 43 minutes were dominating the Charlotte Hornets. It just so happened the Hornets, who had the same thing on Wednesday night where they had control of the majority of the game, got it together at the end and finished off. Charlotte, this time, they finished the game off. You remember the Oklahoma City game, they couldn't close it out. They closed this one out. They came back, they did what they had to do, and really it was all about the fourth quarter with Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier hitting shots, Devontae Graham making key plays, and really the team just rebounding. You saw the effort. Zion Williamson in the post is a hard guy to guard. no matter who it is. We saw PJ Washington struggle to guard Zion Williamson. Listen, Zion is 6'7", 6'8". He's 270 pounds. Like, you're not going to stop him. You're not going to PJ Washington's not going to bang with Zion Williamson. All right. Bismack Biyombo is one of the strongest guys in the league, and he struggles to literally hold down Zion Williamson. So Zion's going to get his, but if you watch the fourth quarter and you watch LaMelo Ball, you watch Terry Rozier, you watch Devontae Graham, every time that ball was up, they started pushing. They started grabbing rebounds. They started boxing out Zion, which is difficult to do as it is. They did all the little things that you would want your players to do, especially when you're undersized. I asked Coach Borrego in the game in postgame tonight about the rebounding. He said that was the most important thing tonight, besides the fact of the team showing resiliency. And that's the word he's been using every time Charlotte does something. It's resiliency. He mentioned that in the Brooklyn game. He mentioned that in the Dallas game. It was resiliency. Being able to bounce back when you get punched in the mouth. And that's what happened. They show resiliency on Wednesday. They show resiliency tonight by, in this case, fending off an 18-point lead, being able to crack that lead to 10, and then getting over that hump and keeping over the hump. Speaking over the hump, all right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. LaMelo Ball tonight, 12 points, 10 rebounds. He had 9 assists and right around 26 minutes tonight, 25-34. So we say 26 minutes tonight. All right, every Hornets fan is probably going to drill James Borrego for not letting him get the triple-double. All right, if you watched the game and saw, there was a part in the fourth quarter where right around around the TV timeout, they took LaMelo Ball out the game for a couple minutes to give him a breather because, hey, listen, LaMelo been playing hard. They tried to bring him back in the game, and LaMelo really sat waiting on to check in for about 3 minutes. We saw him in and out the final stretch of the game, but there was one part that I wanted to see him get the triple-double, but I would have hated for him to got it the way he would have got it. The Hornets were up by 6, running out the clock. LaMelo had a chance to shoot a 3 because he was wide open with the clock running down, and he attempted to get the ball to Miles Bridges with less than a second on the shot clock, which caused a 24-second violation. In some cases, that was inexcusable. You just don't do that. You're up points. The game is almost over. You don't want to give a team extra possessions, okay? If you miss it, New Orleans still has to go down the court, and the clock's still running. You caused a 24-second violation, which allowed New Orleans to get a timeout and get a better spot on the floor. If New Orleans would have hit a 3, Charlotte's going to have to hit free throws. Even though they didn't, Charlotte still won the game. It's a 19-year-old moment and a moment that is a teaching lesson. Melo played great the whole game. Listen, he was getting in the lane. He was finding his teammates. That pass to Gordon Hayward for the three-pointer that I thought was the dagger in the fourth quarter was an outstanding look. He was grabbing offensive rebounds, and there was one point it looked like he was watching Jason Kidd on the court because he was rebounding, starting the break, and they were finishing it. His ability to rebound at 19 years old is, for a 19-year-old point guard, it's so much reminiscent. I'm not going to say Magic Johnson, but it's reminiscent of watching Penny Hardaway, watching Jason Kidd, because he's able to not only to start the rebound, but he's starting the break, and he's getting his teammates involved to finish the break. Now, if you look at the shooting numbers, listen, you're not asking LaMelo Ball to go out there and knock down 30 points a game, because that's not what he does. He did shoot 4 of 11 tonight and did hit 1 of 5 from the 3-point line tonight, but this is the first game I can remember in a while where LaMelo Ball actually had a plus on the plus-minus chart. He was a +5 tonight. But if you look at what he did, and there was some plays, listen, there was the tie-up with his brother. There was the time where even though Zion Williamson scored on a rim, LaMelo tried to take the ball from Zion Williamson, and then the next possession took the ball away from Steven Adams. Because those are things that LaMelo brings to the table. Terry Rozier had a one where he took away the ball from Adams and caused the foul as well too. But LaMelo's infectious. And so at this point, I think coming off the bench is the right thing to do. And really, listen, there should be no lineup changes tomorrow night against Atlanta. All right. Before people ask the question about why should LaMelo Ball not be in the lineup, or should he be in the lineup starting going forward? No, Charlotte is winning. The most important thing for any team is, if you're winning, keep the continuity together. That's what you want. You want to keep the continuity together, because the best part about the continuity is the fact of you're building chemistry, you're building rotations, you're building a whole bunch of things where where it's consistency. And I think at this point, where it comes to Charlotte, it's more about consistency. Mike Patton in the chat asks, since I was talking about Penny, Jason Kidd, and Magic, like I said, I think a lot of LaMelo Ball reminds me of Jason Kidd. He reminds me so much of Jason Kidd. I think the fact of when you have the court vision LaMelo Ball has at 19 years old, the shot's still developing, but he can rebound. And as you saw tonight, he led the Hornets in rebounding. He led them in offensive rebounding. He actually led the game in rebounds tonight. In 25 minutes, he out-rebounded Zion Williamson. He out-rebounded Steven Adams. Okay, so that's what he did. He did more with what he has, and I think the Jason Kidd element is there. I think we talk about Magic Johnson. Magic was a different type of player then, because Magic can give you 35 when needed to. Okay, and Penny Hardaway was much more of an aggressive scorer. So I don't see that with LaMelo at this point this early, but I think he reminds me so much of Jason Kidd when he was in Dallas, because he can run that break. And once Devontae starts getting his shot down consistently, and one thing we did see, and I asked Coach Borrego this in pregame, we saw this a little bit on Wednesday night, and we saw more of this tonight, was the 3-guard lineup. It's going to be a lethal way of winning games for Charlotte when it starts to work. When you have Devontae, you have Terry on the wings, Gordon, and if they can find, and they use Miles in this scenario as well too, but you have Miles, who's an outstanding leaper and is a better rebounder than people give him credit for, because he actually can rebound. You have LaMelo out there running the floor with Devontae and Gordon and Terry all shooting threes in the corner. It's a different type of lineup. It's a fun type of lineup. When people don't think this 3-guard lineup will work, it will. We watched Oklahoma City do that and make the playoffs last year with 3 guards. They did it last year when you had guys like Chris Paul, Dennis Schroeder, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander all playing together. It works, but you got to have the right combination. And I think because Terry Rozier is such a good knockdown shooter, and Graham, when he figures out that it's more to it than having the ball in his hand, and for him to be creative, once that shot falls from him and LaMelo has that vision to look off and find people everywhere, it's a danger. It's going to be really fun to watch. Before we close out the show tonight, like I said, we talked about Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward is Gordon Hayward. He finished the game off after starting off slow. Hayward has now started to become, I don't want to say the closer, but listen, I know he's making $120 million, but the last couple of games, Gordon Hayward has been worth every penny. And I think we'll see more of this going forward. Let's talk about the other players on the bench tonight. Like I said, Miles Bridges had 20 points tonight. And listen, that first half, Miles Bridges saved the Hornets. He had 3 dunks in the first half, and they were all 3 were spectacular dunks. One where he caught off, he did a tip back dunk. The one where he dunked on Josh Hart, and then the one where he was in the lane so fast it looked like Zion Williamson, because no one was trying to block Miles Bridges in the paint. No one's going to try to go straight up with him. But what Miles did in the second half was he expanded his game, knocked down a 3-pointer. He was great off the bench tonight. And the other 2 guys in the rotation, because it seems like Coach Borrego has now chipped this rotation from 9 to 10, because we haven't seen much of Jalen McDaniels. It is, it's really been the Martin twins. Now, Cody and Caleb, once again, they played minutes tonight. Caleb Martin played, I think it was 12 minutes. He had 4 points. Caleb Martin's more the offensive one, while Cody's more the defensive one. Cody had the offensive foul earlier, trying to do a spin move drive to the paint. But listen, for those who don't like the Martin twins, the rotation, they do something a little bit more consistent than other guys in this roster. When you ask Caleb Martin, he comes in, he plays hard, he hustles, he rebounds, he does the small little things that you need to do. Caleb Martin is much more of an effective scorer and much more consistent than Malik Monk at this point. Every Hornets fan knows what Malik Monk brings to the table. He is a J.R. Smith type of player, and I don't mean Cleveland J.R. Smith type of player. I look at him as more of a Denver J.R. Smith. What I say by that is it's that he is a shooter, and if he's not hitting shots, his defense is still below average. And for a team that already has size issues and can't protect the paint, Charlotte doesn't need any more issues with guarding guys on the perimeter. So I don't see Malik Monk in this set, because he doesn't play the defense at the level that you need to have, especially when you don't have guys who can protect the paint. If you had a Clint Capella, if you had a Steven Adams, if you had a Hassan, I would say Mitchell Robinson, you had that type of center that's just defensive minded and grabs rebound, defensive minded and protects the paint. You know, that's what you have. But in Charlotte's case, if you look at what's on this roster, Biombo's the only one that protects the paint, and give a lot of credit to PJ Washington because he's been blocking shots like crazy the last couple games, but it's not a guy that's going to be intimidating in the paint. All right, other Hornets news tonight before we check out tonight, before we duck out tonight. Mike Patton also said, yeah, what hand injury? Listen, Gordon Hayward, the thumb, the whatever the injury is right now, because I can't remember which finger it is, you can't tell because he is playing phenomenal. Like I said, he's playing at the level that you would expect him to do when you signed him to all the money. So let's talk about the other news, because we talked about when you ask about guys who are not playing. Vernon Carey, Nick Richards, Grant Riller. The good news is for Hornets fans is that the Greensboro Swarm will be headed down to the bubble down in Orlando for the G League bubble this season. They're one of 17 teams that are going down there, with the G League elite team being the team number 18. Now, they haven't named the roster yet or the specifics of how this works, but we do know I do know just by guesstimating here that the two-way guys on the roster, that includes Grant Riller and Nate Darling, will be headed down to Orlando to get plenty of playing time that they need. The real question is, which big, if not both bigs, will be down there? I don't know offhand who is going to go, but if I'm a betting man, they're only going to send one of either Richards or Carey. They can't send both. With Charlotte not having enough bigs on this roster, you can't send both. You can't send both at this point, because if somebody goes down and the team doesn't have Zeller until probably sometime in February, you're going to need somebody there. I would say if I had to pick one of the two, I think Vernon Carey would be the one to go, because Nick Richards could protect the rim in case just a little bit better than Carey at this point, because the way Charlotte is and the fact they rely so much on perimeter and three-point shots, I think you need as many guys who can protect the rim as possible. So if I was a betting man at this point at 11:20 Eastern time on January 7th, I would say, or January 8th, I would say Carey would be the one going down to the bubble. Now, as far as how guys are getting called up, we don't know. We don't know who is getting called up and how it works, how protocols work. It's a little bit different. We just know that the season will start in February out in Orlando. They'll be playing a shortened regular season, and then they'll have the playoffs right after that. 7 teams make the playoffs because the G League elite team will be team number 8. And that elite team will have Jalen Green as well as Jonathan Kuminga, 2 of the top prospects in next season's NBA draft. They'll have a little bit longer and bigger stretch of time to play on the national stage. So it's really, can the Hornets Swarm get in that top 7, and they gotta find a head coach because Joe Wolf isn't back. So it's going to be interesting who's going to be coaching this team when they go down to Orlando. All right, so let's talk about tomorrow night's game. It is a rematch with the Atlanta Hawks, a game they played on Wednesday night. In the game that Trae Young seemed like he was completely out of it. Trae Young, 7 points, was nowhere to be found. And Atlanta is going through a little bit of interesting moments in Atlanta right now, with John Collins and the team meeting with John Collins and Clint Capella involving Trae Young. That's out on The Athletic. Chris Carson wrote an outstanding article about it. There's a little bit of concern about usage out there. We saw what the concerns were on Wednesday night. What does Charlotte need to do to win this game? Well, number one, don't expect to play or be leading for 43 minutes against Atlanta. And I don't expect Trae Young to shoot or even act the way he did on Wednesday night. I do expect Atlanta to be much more aggressive. Bojan Bogdanovic, we don't know about which of the other guys are going to be out for Atlanta. I think Rondo is out tomorrow. I know Onyeka Okongwu is not going to play either. I don't think he's even practiced yet. Chris Dunn is out. I'm not sure about Danilo Gallinari just yet, but Bogdanovic is going to have to step up. Cam Reddish, they're going to have to be able to run up and down with Charlotte. And the other thing is, for Hornets fans, you can't expect Atlanta to only score 11 points. I don't think what Atlanta did on Wednesday will be the same thing we see tomorrow night. The good news for the Hornets is they get to come back home. The bad news is they're in a stretch of 6 games in 9 days. So this is going to be much more of a it's a grind, because once they get out of the game on Sunday, I mean on Saturday, they have a stretch where they have a game on Monday, and then they have the 2 games on against Toronto or Tampa, wherever you want to call them, down in the great state of Florida next week. So they have 4 games next week. So they have to somehow get it all together. And my main thing for the Hornets is if they can get through this stretch after you get through after the Tampa games or Toronto or the displaced team right now, if they can stay right around 500 and not get themselves too far buried, listen, they'll be in a great stretch as you get to the quarter pole of the season. All right, so anybody can follow the show. Like I said, follow me tomorrow night. We'll be back here tomorrow night for post game. But tomorrow, 10:30 in the morning on AM 11. Like 11:10 in Atlanta, WWE. I'll be on the 3-point conversion with myself and Mr. Controversy Raphael Haynes. We're talking the birds and the bees, our weekly segment. We're talking Hornets and Atlanta Hawks because guess what? Raphael's in Atlanta with the birds, and I'm in Charlotte with the bees in Atlanta. So it's the birds and the bees tomorrow, talking about the Hornets, talking about LaMelo Ball in the game tonight, as well as what to expect between Hawks and Hornets. 7 o'clock tomorrow night at the Spectrum Center. Also, at the same time, follow me on the 3-point at 3-point conversions website with Hornets articles going up all week. I think I have one going up tomorrow on the question about a little bit more in depth about LaMelo Ball and starting with the Charlotte Hornets. Also, follow me on Twitter at Danny DANY number 3 Thompson on Twitter, as well as, like I said, if you guys like the show, please like, share, subscribe, pass it on to your friends. Like I said, even catch the cast later. Also, at the same time, with the Haps app, if you enjoy the content and the work, and yes, there'll be much more Hornets and separate NBA content coming over the next couple of weeks. Like I said, subscribe. Also, like I said, when you subscribe, you get to know all about when I go live, be able to get yourself ready, get your popcorn ready to talk Hornets as well as NBA. So big shouts to everybody in the chat tonight, everybody who also donated to the show tonight. I do appreciate it. I appreciate the entire team over at Haps, as well as everybody that tuned into the show tonight. Once again, quick question from Firefighter about which brother would I rather have. Listen, I'm a Hornets guy. LaMelo does more offensively than Lonzo at this point, so I'll take LaMelo because I see the upside in LaMelo Ball right now. Like I said, I believe in LaMelo Ball. And Wolf Sands over in the chat saying that they miss Muggsy Bogues and Larry Johnson. That's a totally different era of Hornets basketball. That's the era I grew up in, and that's the era I remember watching my first set of games being a Hornets fan. Let's say go back to 1988. So I can remember the good old Christmas Eve miracle with Kurt Rambis. I go back to the opening game where they gave him almost 150 in the first game to Cleveland, and they got a standing ovation. I remember the parade in year one. So yeah, I'm a Hornets guy, true and true. All right, guys. Well, guys and ladies, we'll see you guys tomorrow night here on for the BuzzCity post-game show for game number 10 against the Atlanta Hawks. Like, share, and tag the show. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you tomorrow night. Stay safe out there, and especially the Charlotte area because we did have snow tonight. So make sure, stay careful of the black ice. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.